welcome into another edition of Building the Brand with me, Mike Waddell. I'm the president and alternate governor of the Allen Americans. And later on today, we're going to talk with the voice of the Allen Americans, Tommy Daniels. Every week, right here on AllenAmericans.com, you see his podcast, Red, White, and You. He talks to people from the hockey world, from the sports world, from the Dallas VIP experience. He knows everybody, but today we're going to flip the script and we're going to talk to Tommy about his start in radio up in Buffalo, how he moved here to Texas, and some of his favorite times as the voice of the Allen Americans, because he's called every game broadcast in the history of this franchise. So that's coming up a little bit later. First up, I wanted to give you a little update on the ECHL. Still no definitive start to our 2020-21 season. We will take another vote with the Board of Governors coming up at the beginning of October, and hopefully then we'll have a clearer indication on whether we get back to playing hockey on December 4th, or if we have to wait until January or perhaps later. You never know. Gary Bettman of the NHL had some interesting comments over the past week about when the NHL is going to get started. The AHL will take a vote coming up at the end of September, and so it's a wait-and-see mode now for all of us. But the one thing I can tell you is as soon as we have a definitive answer, we will tell you about it right here on AllenAmericans.com, on all of the Allen Americans social media channels. We also have some big events to talk about today. Not really getting back to live hockey action, but we're going to do the best we can, as on September 29th, and again on October 28th over at the iPic Theater in Fairview, at part of the Fairview Town Center, we're going to relive ECHL championship moments with the Allen Americans. And season ticket members, you get in absolutely free. All you have to do is call the office and tell Chase up front that you want to reserve 2 spots to one of the 2 events. Each season ticket member gets 2 tickets to one of the 2 events, either the 2015 replay on September 29th or the 2016 replay on October 28th. And all you have to do is call us here at the Allen Americans front office. Chase will answer the phone. He'll get you taken care of. And then you come over to the iPic Theater, and hey, you can get the chance to meet Tommy Daniels. You can get a chance to meet Steve Martinson. You can get a chance to buy some gear, and you'll probably even get a free gift. So it's worth the time. Come on over, watch these championship moments unfurl in front of your eyes, and it's all a part of your season ticket member experience right here with the Allen Americans. If you need more information, go ahead, log on to the other part of the site right here at AllenAmericans.com. So we're going to take a break, come back on the other side, tell you about one of our brand new corporate alliances here with the Allen Americans, and then following that, we'll talk to the voice of the Allen Americans, Tommy Daniels. Stay tuned as you're listening to Building the Brand with me, Mike Waddell, here on AllenAmericans.com. One of the great things about being the president and alternate governor of the Allen Americans is I get to go out and meet a lot of businesses right here in the North Texas area. And right here, just off 75 in Allen, we have a new place for you to stay if you're coming into town. If the mother-in-law is coming to town, you need to dump her off at a hotel, you just want to go out and have a weekend off from the house, go to True by Hilton. It opened up back on September 3rd, and it's a beautiful space. You have brand new rooms. Everything is spotless. It's right next to one of my favorite places, the Texas Legends shooting range. So you can go over there and get some activity. But again, beautiful rooms, brand new, and all at an affordable price. It's True by Hilton right here in Allen. You can find them on the web. Just Google them up. True by Hilton, one of our official hotel partners of the Allen Americans. So now, without any further ado, we waited until the 2nd edition of Building the Brand here on AllenAmericans.com before we brought in the best guest in the history of the program. Right here, it is Tommy Daniels, voice of the Allen Americans, back. He's tanned, he's rested, he's ready, folks. He just got back off a vacation where he was seeing the fam over in the East Coast, and now all we need is that definitive start date from the ECHL. And Tommy, we will be ready to play hockey right here in Allen.
Mike, I'm so ready. By the way, thanks again. What a great vacation. Always fun when you get to spend time with the family, kind of refresh, get the batteries juiced up again and ready for a long ECHL season.
I can't wait. It is great to have you back in the office. Of course, we're doing this here on Monday. It's the day we're building the brand. Comes out every week here on AlanAmericans.com, and your podcast, Red, White, and You, hits out on Wednesdays and Sundays. So you are a guy that you're twice as good as the rest of us. You get two shows. That means that you have talent.
Well, it just means that you know what, we're building, like you said, we're building the brand, and we're getting the content out to our fans. So we've had so many great replies from fans over during the pandemic about the different podcasts we put together, whether it was with former players, former Ice Angels, VIPs, professional golfers, NASCAR drivers, and you name it. Just trying to keep people in touch with what's going on in our world, during a very, very tough time for fans, just giving them an opportunity to keep in touch with the Allen Americans.
Well, we're talking right here with the voice of the Allen Americans, Tommy Daniels. And we're flipping the script. Like we said a second ago, every week, and you just went through the host of people that you've had on your show over the last few months during this pandemic, but how many times have people actually interviewed you? Well, we want to do that right now. So tell us, you come from Buffalo.
Yeah.
I love buffalo chicken, but right there, you were from the place where it all came to be. How did you make your way to Allen, and how did you grow up there in Buffalo?
Well, the trip to Texas came during the high school years. And, my dad worked for the school district for a long time, and just got tired of the cold winters and said, let's move somewhere down south. My brother had relocated here, came down for a visit, loved it. Next thing you know, we're putting our house up for sale and moving to DFW. And you know what? It was at the time, I wasn't happy about leaving, friends and a lot of family up there, but it turned out to be the right situation for me. I got a chance to go to high school here at Keller. Also went to University of North Texas, go Mean Green. And the rest is history. Started my radio career here, after high school and after college. And, I was in the DFW market for over 20 years. And then, lo and behold, the Americans job became available. They reached out to me, and I got to admit it was a tough decision at first to leave radio because I've been in radio pretty much my whole life. But, looking back now in year 12, definitely was the right thing.
What was it about being on the radio that really spoke to you, that said, hey, this is the way that you can be a part of a sports franchise?
Well, I pretty much knew from the time I was 5 years old, I was going to be one of two things. Either I was going to be a Catholic priest, or I was going to be a broadcaster. For whatever reason, I don't know why, when I was a kid, those were the two things that I was fascinated with. And I chose broadcasting. I think I'm a better broadcaster than a priest. What do you think, Mike? I mean,
I think so, but you know what? They both have one thing in common, and that means that people are there to listen to you. You're there
Absolutely.
to help people, either, spiritually, or in this case, helping them understand a game. So I can see the correlation.
I've always had a fascination with microphones, and it started in elementary school. I used to make the announcements every day. And I knew that I wanted to be something in the broadcasting world, whether it was a DJ, which is where I started. Funny story, I started working at a country music station. First job, I knew 2 country songs. So I had to get myself acclimated. Oh my God, I can't say the word.
Acclimated. But before you go there, what were the 2 country songs that you knew?
Well, I knew Willie Nelson, Always on My Mind.
There you go.
And I knew Juice Newton, Queen of Hearts, and that was pretty much.
Oh, now Juice Newton doesn't count.
Come on. All right. Hey, that was what I knew, and I had to learn the whole country music world. But you know what? It worked out well. And later on, obviously worked, in radio in Dallas. Worked for a lot of different stations. Kiss 102.9, The Ticket, which I was there for a long time. The Edge, which I spent almost 10 years there, no longer here, but the #1 alternative rock station in DFW history. And so, yeah, and then, I've always been a hockey fan. As you mentioned, grew up in Buffalo, wanted the opportunity to call hockey. And, I was given the great opportunity here in 2009 when the Americans landed on the map here. And at the time, they were in the Central Hockey League. And then, here we are 12 years later. If somebody would have told me in '09 I'd still be here in 2020 in a pandemic world, I would have said blank. But, here I am, and I love it.
Do you remember the first hockey game you ever went to as a fan?
I do. And it was during the 1976 season. Sabres were playing the Montreal Canadiens, and the Sabres won. They got a shutout that night. I remember Donnie Edwards was in net, and he was my favorite goaltender when I was a kid. And, the rest is history. And we sat up in the orange seats, which were way, way up high in the old Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. And, from there, the rest was history. I, fell in love with the sport, played hockey growing up. As a kid, learned to skate when I was 4. And, here I am, years later, still involved in the game.
We're talking with Tommy Daniels, the voice of the Allen Americans. I'm Mike Waddell, the president of the Allen Americans, and you're tuned in to Building the Brand here on AllenAmericans.com. Who were your heroes growing up on the broadcast side? I mean, we heard there about the people that you liked in net for the Sabres.
Yeah.
But who did you listen to? Who did you watch and say, man, that's who I want to be like? Well,
Van Miller was the voice of the Buffalo Bills back in the day. And boy, everybody wanted to be Van. He painted such a great picture when he was calling the game. And he also was the voice of the Buffalo Braves back in the day, a former NBA team, now the Los Angeles Clippers. And, I used to listen to Van, and he had a sports talk show, WBEN, up in Buffalo every night as well, when he wasn't calling games. And I remember calling him one time. My mom called and put me on the phone, and I told him I wanted to be just like him. And he said, if you, work hard at it someday, you'll be able to take my job. Well, move ahead 30 years, and probably a little bit longer than that. And, so here I'm working at Fox Sports Radio. I'm doing the morning show there. The Bills are in town playing the Dallas Cowboys. And I had Van Miller on my show. And I told him that story. I made the man cry. Literally, he said, that's one of the nicest things that anybody's ever told me. And he said, I'm so honored to be on your show. I got to meet him down in Houston a year or 2 later, whenever we went down for the Oilers-Bills game, and got a chance to meet Van and told him that story again. And I was glad I got to meet the man who I call responsible for me being here and doing what I'm doing today.
And you do a great job of it. I mean, everybody that we go out into the community, when they talk about the Allen Americans, you're the #1 person they associate with this brand. So really, as this brand, the Allen Americans, has been built, you're the foundational stone right there. It has it right there, founded 2009, Tommy Daniels. So let's go through some of your favorites and not so favorites with the Allen Americans. I like to do this kind of thing. So your favorite game, which one? Because you've been a part of 4 championships. You've been a part of 10 trips to the 9 trips to the playoffs. So what is your favorite all-time Allen Americans game?
It would have to be the win over Wichita, even though, it was great, the South Carolina and Wheeling wins. But the first one is always the best one, right? Here we were down in that game in the third period, 2-0 with about 10.5 to go. We come back, we scored 2 goals, one late in the third period by Trevor Hendricks, which tied the game. And then, of course, Todd Robinson in overtime, 2.5 minutes in, with, I still say, the biggest goal in Allen Americans history. And by the way, predicted by Rick Goslin, who was up with me during the overtime intermission. And I said, Goslin, who do you like? And he said, Todd Robinson, 2.5 minutes in, and almost to the second, it was Robinson with the goal. So that definitely is my favorite moment. The most heartbreaking moment, because I think, you know what, Mike, even though, losses are a part of the game, right? I mean, you can't win everything. So I'll say my most heartbreaking loss would have to be that first year. When we go to the finals, we lose in double overtime to the Rapid City Rush. Scotty Ray, who was just a thorn in our side, he was just a great player for Rapid City, and he scores the game winner in overtime. And I'm telling you, watching the Rush celebrate on the ice and that feeling of just emptiness in the pit of your stomach, and feeling for the guys down there who played their hearts out. We all felt that we were the best team in the league that year. Rapid City, we went through Odessa, by the way, who had the best record overall, but we took them out, and then ended up playing Rapid City in the finals. And we really believed that we had the best team. Maybe not the most talent, but we feel like we had the best. If you look at 1 through 22, we felt like we had the best group of guys, and they really played hard for each other. Some big names came out of that team. Jordy Ben, now in the NHL with the Vancouver Canucks, was on that roster. Dwight Mullins, who was our first coach, great man. I really enjoyed working with him as well. Bill McDonald, who was our assistant coach, who was kind of the brain trust for a lot of the players we had signed that year. Bruce Graham, who still, holds a few of our records. If you look over the years, he's been an amazing player. Justin Bowers, who was our first All-Star ever. There's been a lot of great players that have rolled through Allen. And, I just feel so lucky to be a part of all that. And I learned something, Mike. Winning is great, but you also take something out of losing. It makes you, I think, stronger as a group. And the one thing that I was always, misled about is I just figured, much like the major leagues, that, the same team would be back next year. We lost so many players. It was very, very tough to see a lot of those guys go away and not come back. And as much as I've been a part of some great teams, my favorite group of all time is got to be that first year's team. We were so close. If you go from breaking down in the middle of New Mexico on the way back from Arizona, our very first ever road trip, to all those great post-game events that we had here in year one. And we did a lot of them because fans were still getting used to the Allen Americans, and meeting fans for the first time, and now still talking to those people, going on 12 years later. It's really been a great experience. And I think being a part of something from the very, very first day we opened our doors here, and I started with the team during the summer of 2009. I think my hire date, if we go back and look, was July 19th. And, I'll say as many great years as I've had in radio, the best job I've ever had is right here with the Americans.
We're talking with Tommy Daniels. He is the voice of the Allen Americans. This is Building the Brand on AllenAmericans.com. So we've heard about your hero growing up. We've heard about your favorite team with the Allen Americans. Give us your most interesting, doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be bad, just has to be interesting, your most interesting interaction with the head coach and general manager of the Allen Americans, Steve Martins.
Oh, boy. There's been so
that
many.
You can share on the air.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if we were sharing off air, I've got a lot of great stories. You know what, with Marty, I think the one thing I see in, people see Marty as a very intense guy, on the bench and sometimes after games, but I see the Steve Martinson that, will call me and say, hey, let's go have dinner after a game, or, the guy that I talk to sometimes on the bus when we just sit there and talk music. He's one of the most interesting guys to get to know, because, God, man, he's had a great life. He really has. He played in the NHL. He's got some great stories himself that he can tell you about his time, playing in the minors, from all the different fights he's been involved in, to, just getting the job here in Allen, which was kind of a strange way that it all came about. It was when Mike Modano and Belfour and Matt Kachuk and that crew were here, and they interviewed a bunch of bunch of different names for the job, and everybody agreed that Steve Martinson brought the most to the table and that he would be the perfect guy for Allen. And lo and behold, they made the right choice, because here we are, going into year 12, and we have 4 championships and 5 trips to the finals. And of course, he was the all-star coach last year, won general manager of the year. Just great for him. He's a wonderful guy. We only see the Marty who's fired up a lot of times on the bench and a very, very intense person, but one of the greatest storytellers I've ever been around. I could sit there listening to his stories for hours on the bus, and I do.
Well, I tell you one thing, it's been fun listening to him tell me some stories so far. Not as good as hearing you tell your stories, but one of the ones that I heard on Marty, and I'll have him on here in a few weeks, is actually from Steve Carlson, who was Steve Hansen in the movie Slapshot, who's a friend of mine. And he was telling me about Marty and Steve Carlson on the bench, upset about some playing time, but some conversations that they had going on down in Birmingham back in the day. And we'll tease that story a little bit right here, but it ended in a fight, I'm told. So with that, we'll bring this to a close, but have to ask you, what's your prediction for this season? Of course, you and I, we're both in the know, but not as much as people may think. We don't have any clue about when this season's going to start. Hopefully we get some great indication on that coming up here first of the month of October. Will it be December? Do you think it'll go on into January?
Well, hearing Gary Bettman talk just the other day, kind of his state of the NHL, he kind of indicated that there might be a possibility that things move back, closer to January 1. I think he mentioned the date of December 31st, and said there was even a possibility that they could be, starting the season without fans, and maybe even in the bubble. A lot of that's going to depend on, obviously, with having so many Canadian teams in the National Hockey League and not able to cross over the border right now. That all is going to play a factor in it. But I still think the one thing I do believe, I know we'll play hockey this year. Will it be December 1st? Will it be, January 10th? I don't know. I would lean later towards the first of the year, and, always trying to be positive and optimistic. I think it's going to be a good year. I think everybody's excited to get to 2021 and get past all of this, and it should be a lot of fun. You've done a great job with getting everything pointed here in the right direction in the office, and we got a great crew, and really, really enjoy what we have going here in Allen.
Just want to go back out there and get you another ring. Which one of the 4 rings is your favorite?
The one I lost, which is the first one. Yeah, it's tough. But you know what? Like I said, hey, I've got the memory. I lost the ring, but I've got the memory. But yeah, that definitely was my favorite, just because, you always remember your first child, right? And going through that experience, my first championship, and from a guy who grew up in Buffalo. And I have to remind you of 4 straight Super Bowl losses and 2 Stanley Cup Finals losses, in the crease, wide right. You've heard all the jokes about Buffalo. You know what Bill stands for. Boy, I love losing on Sunday. So it's been challenging, but, through the Allen Americans, it's taught me 4 championship rings and just a lot of great memories.
Well, you were certainly Mr. Americans, and we appreciate all you do for us here in the office, and all the fans love you dearly and can't wait to hear you back on the air. But they can't hear you right now on Americans 24/7. So if you can't get enough Tommy, you can listen to Tommy Daniels around the clock, 24/7, 365. That's a fun service right there, isn't it?
Hey, you know what? During my drive back from South Carolina, I spent a lot of time listening to the Americans 24/7, and great job, Kami Kessler, and everybody that was involved in putting that together. Just a great feature for fans. You can always, it might be off season, might be in a pandemic, but if you want to go back and hear some old classic interviews, classic games, you can do that on Americans 24/7.
We're going to look forward to seeing more of you, to hearing more of you. Red, White, and You, the podcast with Tommy Daniels right here on AllenAmericans.com every Wednesday, every Sunday. New content post every day. 7 days a week at high noon. Tommy, thanks a lot for jumping on the Zoom call with us here and taping another edition of Building the Brand. And so there you go. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Tommy Daniels, native of Buffalo, transplant here to North Texas. And for every game in the history of this franchise, he's been the voice of the red, white, and blue, your Allen Americans. Tommy Daniels, he's a world-class treasure. We're glad to have him as part of our front office staff as our vice president of broadcasting and communications. So that'll do it for this, the second edition of Building the Brand here on AllenAmericans.com. Coming up next Monday, we will talk with Joe Bosack of Joe Bosack and Company. He's the guy behind the brand new brand enhancement, the new logos that we have along with our signature crest in the center of the jersey, the center of the ice. We have some new looks this year for the team shop. And Joe Bosack, the veteran sports branding professional, is the guy that put those together. We'll have him next week. So until then, for Tommy Daniels, I'm Mike Waddell. We'll talk to you right here next week on Building the Brand right here on AllenAmericans.com.